Hello again from Sheffield, and we're still on the book of Ezekiel, and today we're looking at Ezekiel chapter 32 and the first part of chapter 33 up to verse 20. Now, yesterday we saw the word of God coming to the people of Egypt and some very difficult words for them. And today we've got a message for Pharaoh, who is the king of Egypt. Previously we had a message for Tyre and then a message for the king of Tyre. Today we have had the message for Egypt, and now it's the message for the king of Egypt. At the very beginning of chapter 32, we have this wonderful picture. Pharaoh, who was the king of Egypt, saw himself as almost like a god, really, powerful and influential and full of wealth and magnificent, and he saw himself as a lion, a roaring lion. And God says to Ezekiel, no, Pharaoh may well think he is a lion, but actually he's a crocodile. And we have this picture, it's quite amusing actually, in verse 2, of Pharaoh being described as a sea monster. And a sea monster in biblical times was a crocodile. So Pharaoh might have seen himself as this majestic, roaring, phenomenally elegant lion, but God saw him as a nasty little crocodile crawling on his belly in the sand. So no matter how powerful people think they are and how powerful people try to be, God is always bigger. Then in chapter 33 begins the last segment of the book of Ezekiel. All the difficult messages for the Jewish people and for their enemies, and now it's the messages of hope. And it begins with God appointing Ezekiel as the watchman for the children of Israel. And this is a beautiful passage in this chapter, in chapter 33, because we've got this wonderful set of images about God's people thinking they'd sinned too much, they'd let God down too much, they'd broken God's laws too much. Verses 10 to 12, we've let God down, and Ezekiel says no, God will restore you, God will forgive you, God will give you a brand new start. And for those people living in exile who think they've let God down and screwed up so many ways, what a message of hope, what a message of restoration, what a message of joy. And for you and me today in 2015, that message of hope and restoration and joy is even more significant because we live on this side of the cross. We have even more assurance than they had that if we turn to Jesus, everything we have done is forgiven. If you're listening to this today and you think, oh, God couldn't possibly forgive me, yes, he can. There is nothing that you can do that will make God love you any more. There is nothing you can do that will make God love you any less, because he loves you absolutely. So today, like the children of Israel, know yourself forgiven. Know yourself set free from your past. Know yourself with fresh life and fresh hope and fresh opportunity. And then, as verse 15 says, go out into the world and live that generosity to other people. You can't just say you're forgiven and then treat people badly. You have to live God's generosity with others. So know yourself forgiven and live God's generosity to other people. What a great message for this new day. God bless you. See you tomorrow.